Android users, you can now have TYT in the palm of your hand. Our TYT app is available for download in the Google Play Store. Just go to tyt.com/app to find out more.
Earlier this week, Donald Trump had a huge signing event to show his support for the National Defense Reauthorization Act. And in that act, as we all know, he increased the budget for the military to $717 billion in fiscal year 2019. And there were a few good things in that bill. One of the good things was the fact that he would increase pay for the military. That was pretty much the only good thing. But there was also something that caught my attention, and I was curious to see how Trump would react to it in coming days. So part of this Reauthorization Act included specific provisions pertaining to Russia. Provisions that I felt Trump wouldn't be in favor of, but he hadn't said anything about it when we reported the story. He said some stuff about it today. Not today, but recently, and I wanted to share that aspect with you guys. So in the signing event, Trump objected to 4 of the 8 provisions related to Russia. Included in the 4 is provision 1241, which states that none of the defense bill's funds, quote, may be obligated or expended to implement any activity that recognizes the sovereignty of the Russian Federation over Crimea. Now, in 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, which was Ukrainian territory, and the US imposed sanctions on Russia as a result of that. Russia not in favor of those sanctions, clearly not in favor of them. And so the whole point here is, hey, we're not gonna use any of the defense budget on protecting Russia and its actions. And Trump does not like that. So Trump argued that the bill would unjustly limit his presidential authority by restricting military to military cooperation with Russia and mandating he report to Congress if Russia violates the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty or if he discusses a new strategic arms reduction treaty with Russian President Vladimir Putin. So he's already, spoken out against this. He's on the record. It's unsurprising to me. What was surprising was when he initially signed it and we hadn't heard anything about him being against these Russian provisions.
This stuff, this bill, this defense bill has other stuff in it. It has stuff like American troops in South Korea, for example, and the number of troops associated with Middle Eastern involvement. In other words, there are a number of things laid out here. So it is weird. I mean, yet again, another weird Russian thing that's carved out by Trump. And it's, again, carved out so obviously. It was kind of like his clunky remarks in front of Putin at that press conference. It's like, I can't believe this. Like, if you're really in Russia's pocket, why wouldn't you at least try to put on a little bit of a charade? Well, in this case, where probably a little less of a charade is possible, I mean, you are going to have to go on the record with actual legislation, actual spending. He's had to come out of the woods even further and say, right, I'm not good with this Russia part.
I think one of the parts that stuck out, I think I mentioned this a few times today, there was aspects of it that these would violate some of Trump's presidential powers, one of which being they were requiring him to report on North Korea's nuclear activities. So I looked at the signing statement that was brought up, and again, in more of the terms, says, my administration will treat these provisions consistent with the president's constitutional authority to withhold information, the disclosure of which could impair national security. So in speaking to the Congress, it's gonna impair your national security to continue your buddy-buddy relationship with your new friend who's amazingly smart and is tough in the way that you wish you could be at such a young age. So it's gonna impair national security for people to have an update on what you promised would happen because of your summit that was self-aggrandizing?
Yeah, so let me give you the exact wording. So here are bullet points of all the things that Trump objects to. Provisions limiting US support for the Saudi military campaign in Yemen. So US taxpayer money is going toward fighting Saudi Arabia's war in Yemen, okay? Yeah. That's what's happening. And there is a humanitarian crisis there. There is children are dying as a result of our actions. We're selling arms to Saudi Arabia like crazy. But no one reports on it, no one talks about it. It drives me nuts. Okay, so Trump is against that. He doesn't want any limitations when it comes to helping Saudi Arabia, go after Yemeni citizens the way that they have, civilians the way that they have. Transfers of Guantanamo Bay detainees and the number of troops in South Korea. And then finally, this is what you were alluding to, JR, provision mandating the president report on North Korea's nuclear activities. You know why Trump doesn't want to report on what's going on with North Korea's nuclear activities? Because they're still developing nuclear weapons. After he tweeted that we have nothing to worry about.
Show's over. Right.
Yeah.
No,
There's been complete nuclear disarmament. No, there hasn't. No, there hasn't. You're not a good negotiator. You didn't make a good deal. You didn't make a deal. You didn't do anything. And he's trying to make it seem as though he accomplished something.
Right. I mean, he's a headline stealer, but he doesn't really do anything. And then you see who he's in bed with. You said he's in bed with the Saudis. That's because of military sales to Saudi Arabia. It's all about money. And Russia, that part's about money also, as you know. It's either about money laundering or it's about money loans, about money loaned. It's about his Trump properties. It's about any number of things that are associated with money in the main. He doesn't want any limit on his executive power. And as we said earlier, he's trying to expand his executive power. And this clearly places limits on his executive power and forces him to own up to certain things that are going on in his administration.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.